Come on, everybody. Got a serious subject I'm going to talk to everybody about tonight, but before I do, I'm going to give you just a little tour of some of these people that done some stuff in these mountains. Picture of my uncles all together is not in here. I was hoping I would find a picture of them all standing there. I know I've got one. This is an old family album. And I was just going to let you gander at it for a second, then we'll get in there to talk. And I just happened to kind of come across this. Of course, I can't show all the pictures, but I don't guess it really matters because I don't know a lot of the people that's in this album anyway. So I don't guess that it matters. But let me take a gander here and see what we can find.
You can go into the hills where an old church used to stand. Nothing but a rock pile sits on the sacred land. Get down on your knees. Be quiet, don't say a word.
You can tell a lot of old folks in here.
Crying out to the Lord. And you can hear their voices sing. You can hear the preacher shout. Lord, make this young girl better. Please take her fever out.
Oh, it's old family history. Hard not to get the freeze on. I'll tell y'all a lot about some of my kinfolk. My family goes back a long ways in these old mountains. And that's some big fixing up right there to get your picture made for the times. I don't know what the deal is with it rolling, but people sure had it rough back in those days. They sure did. Anyway, guys, what I want to talk to y'all about is the stuff that went on, some sort of witchcraft used to go on in these mountains. People's talked about it. There've been movies about it. They've been, you name it, and they've been a book wrote about it or something or other. There's another one. The Bell Witch. This is a different movie. This was a local thing that was done around here. It was awesome. It was totally awesome. But let's talk about witchcraft. Well, I got you here. Let's talk about these things that people don't like to talk about, that I don't like to talk about. The Bible tells us to stay away from such stuff. If it wasn't true, it wouldn't be in there. The Bible wouldn't tell us to stay away from it if it wasn't true. You can't believe in light, not believe in darkness. You can't have day without night. And wherever there's good, there's evil. Now, where does this line of evil get drawn when it comes to witchcraft? You know, it's kind of blurred. Back in Salem, if you could start a fire in less than 5 minutes, you're a witch. You know, there's no real clear-cut dictionary definition, witch or not a witch. A lot of confusion about that. So, one way back in the day that people could tell in the old days, is what my grandmother told me, how they would detect somebody being a witch was they'd take a broom. Yeah, this may be where the old broom story come in. And they'd lay a broom across the doorway, the front door. And then they'd have a big doing going on at their house or whatever that evening. And whoever the witch was in the community, or witch is, they couldn't step over the broom. Everybody else could. They could not step over the broom. My granny would say the witch would bring the broom inside, bring the broom to you, and tell you, here's your broom fell over, or broom's laid in front of the door, or whatever. But said they'd bring the broom in, they cannot step over a broom. So, that's one way that people done it back then. Man, it's starting to rain. I wouldn't have it any other way on a night like this. I know y'all can't tell. It's an ugly night. Another way they could tell was they'd write what people call a ticket. Now, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about when I say write a ticket. Around here, my kinfolk called it a receipt. They didn't call it a ticket. It's called a receipt. But I think up in West Virginia and parts of Kentucky, it's called a ticket. And you'd take that piece of paper. You couldn't talk to nobody. You had to clear your mind. And you would write a Bible verse on it. Different Bible verses pertain to different kinds of receipts. But most usually, it was get thee behind me, Satan, in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. Thou shalt not worship no other God before me other than thee. I can't remember exactly how the Bible verse goes that I'm wanting to put in there. I don't have my Bible with me. I know you're not supposed to change stuff, but that's one of the verses that you would write down. Then you'd put in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Now once you've done that, that's your ticket. That's your receipt right there. You would take that and you would nail it above your door. And again, you would have some doings, invite people over, whatever. And the witch could not come through your door frontwards. They had to come in backwards. They had to back into your house. And the person who come in backwards, well, that's your guy. And yes, they could be guys. Could be men. So, time you done the broom and you done the other, you pretty well knew who it was in the community. People found out. So the ticket, the receipt, would go a long ways into helping people. It would keep people protected. If you knew who the witch was in your community, you could put her name on the ticket. And she couldn't do nothing to you at all. As long as you carried that ticket on you, she could not do nothing to you. Now, I'm telling you all this as I was told it. I've not went out and done any kind of research or studied it. The ways you've heard and what you know, I'm not saying that they're wrong at all. I'm not saying mine's right. I'm saying there's more than one way to skin a cat, so to speak. I'm sure there's different ways of doing things. So, but that was just one way. One of the worst spells or curses that you could have put on you back in that day was the witching of milk. People depend on their milk pretty bad to feed. Sorry about the dogs. To feed, to cook. Times was hard enough anyway. People were starving to death. So now all of a sudden their cows give them blood instead of milk. It's a terrible thing. My granny said that the lady lived in the holler with them. Said their cow was given milk that night. Said she got up the next morning without the milk and it was nothing but blood. She knew that she had a spell put on her. Well, she just happened to know a little counter spell
I was told for every spell is a counter spell, and I used to know that my granny had a book of counter spells. I don't know, when she died, somebody got it. It kind of looked like the one we was looking at. But one of the counter spells was that you would take the milk that was bloody, you'd go dig a hole, you'd pour out milk in the hole, and then you would take a switch off a thorn bush, and you'd sit there and you'd thrash that milk in that hole, that bloody milk. You'd thrash it with those thorns, and whoever the witch was, she was getting a whipping wherever she was with thorns. And Granny said that that woman told her that you could hear the lady screaming all through that holler. She was thrashing that bloody milk, and she said you could hear that woman at the bottom of the hill just a screaming and a hollering, and she knew who her witch was. She knew who done it. So the next thing you had to do was take some of that milk, blood, put it on the stove. Now I'm just trying to go off memory here right now, and you'd try to, like, just going to bring it to a boil on the stove, but you would get your Bible and you'd say some verses, you'd write your receipt, and you'd drop your receipt down in that, and the best I remember, it would sort of like it would blow up. It would blow blood out of that pan all over the room. But then from that point on, your cow would give milk again. Craziness with these spells and this witchcraft back then. They had the nightmare spell, where you would have terrible nightmares. Couldn't sleep. Then the next day you couldn't hardly work. And they claimed that you would see the person in your nightmare who put the spell on you. That they would be in your nightmare along with other people, but they would continuously be in your nightmare. She told so many stories of people who had been witched and the stuff that had happened to them. It's just terrible stuff all the way around. But when you start talking about witchcraft and stuff, you start talking about the evil side. And now, is all witches evil? And I'm asking you, this is up for debate. I'm not saying they are, and I'm not saying they ain't. But ask yourself, if somebody has power to do something on this earth, who give that to them? Did God give them that power? Or did the devil give that to them? Even if they use the power for good, beware false prophets come in my name. The worst thing a witch can do is what they're best at, is tricking people, is fooling people. They could come out and put the best spell on you ever, but there's something behind it for them somewhere, somehow. That's what I was always told. So who gives these people this power to put spells on people and to make people's life miserable if they wanted to? But now, at the same token, my best friend's papa used to take warts off people. He could take a string and he would rub that string across the wart, and then he would take that string and he would bury it, and the people's wart would go away. Now I know this for a fact. I've took people to him and had him do that, and it's always worked. Always. Does that make him a witch? I mean, does that make him evil? Is this something he inherited? Can a bloodline be inherited? Witchcraft. I think my bloodline on my mom's side was haunted. I know it was. So could people inherit someone's skills to witchcraft, to cast spells, and not even know it? And again, I'm just asking you all what you think. It's taken very serious around here, very, very serious. The lady that I had talked about that lived in the Baker Hollow, and all I knew people call her was the Baker Hollow Witch. It's buried up here. They claim that she was into it with a lot of people in the community. A lot of people accusing her of being a witch. Now again, this goes way back to my great-grandmother. This was when my grandmother was young. And people claimed that she was a witch, and it got real serious back then. So my grandmother told me that late one night she goes out into a local graveyard way back up in the mountains where there ain't nobody and she ain't gonna get caught. And she digs up a grave. It's got to be the grave of somebody who's got 3 children that's died, a mother of 3 children. And she dug this grave up and she stole every nail that was in that coffin. Took all the nails out. That's what she thought she wanted. Then she took those nails and she went to the people's property who she wanted to harm, and she put the nail into their property. She just go on their property a little ways and push it down in the dirt. And when she done that, people's crops didn't prosper. Their vegetables rotted in the ground. It wouldn't bloom. Even their grass went as far as dying. And then trees started dying. I mean, it was just everything died. Everything died that was in that yard or in that garden. It's crazy. But I was told a few people cornered this lady and told her that if things didn't stop and their crops didn't come back next year, that they was going to happily build a fire and she would be the kindling for it. Well, before that could ever take place, she died. So that's where you get people not wanting to be buried around her up there or anywhere near her, because there was something with every spell you cast. Now, I'm not saying I know this because I'm a witch. For every spell that you cast, there's a price you have to pay. There's a sacrifice you have to make to get that to work. So some of them claim that when she dug that woman's coffin up, now when she dies and she gets buried, the ground around her coffin is cursed. And terrible, terrible things happen. So I've kind of pulled back the sheet a little bit and let you all see now why that is such a wide area up there. I know I can't promise and tell everybody we'll talk about it. And I really don't like talking about these things because, like I said, the Bible tells us to stay away from things like this. So I just avoided it the whole time. So supposedly that area around her coffin up there is cursed. So you know why everybody in the community now wanted to be buried away at the time. If you look and you know where to look, you'll find the evidence of this stuff actually happening. You just gotta know where to look for it. But the people's farms and stuff, back to it, she must have took some off some people's farms. They said that you would ride by and you could tell everything was dead. Even their cabins and houses would rot. One man's barn fell, if I remember what she told me. So, crazy, crazy stuff. Crazy. I remember she told me, I guess she'd probably been in her 70s when she told me this, that some of the property over there still don't make nothing. Back then. There's still, everything's dead on it. So, this stuff was very serious. This stuff happened. And it was very, very real. They had what people would call a suicide curse, or witching, however you want to say it. And this supposedly happened in North Carolina, just over the mountain, that this lady was into it with her neighbors so bad, she was a witch, that she put the suicide spell on the family that lived next to her, a property dispute on their kids. Like I say, forever, the more powerful the spell, the worse sacrifice you have to make. So, by doing this, it was also said that somebody in her family's baby died 2 or 3 days before her spell went into place. And sure enough, her neighbor's kids, there were 2 of them, killed themselves. Now that story was told to my granny, people sitting around talking, and I'm all ears, and I remember listening. And I remember this stuff fascinated me. And I knew these old people, they didn't believe in telling lies. I could tell they were scared when they talked about it. They more or less said that some of that lady's relations, her sister's baby, somebody died as a sacrifice. I don't think she necessarily killed it, but died as a sacrifice just so her spell could go through. That's serious. That is really wanting to put one on somebody when you do that. But let's talk a little bit about people becoming witches. How do they become a witch? I remember that question being asked a lot. I've heard a lot of different ways. Well, I remember 2 off the top of my head. I don't know if y'all know who Ray Hicks is. He's an old mountaineer guy from Beach Mountain, North Carolina. And he was told when he was younger that the way somebody becomes a witch is you have to kill 12 black cats. You have to lay in a pen with a hog for 9 days and suck off the mother's tit just like a baby hog. Lay right in that muck and mire and pig crap and all that for 9 days. And then after that you get out, and at 12 noon you stare at the sun as long as you can, and there's some words you're supposed to say. When you wake up the next day, you'll be a changed person. That's enough to change you. You'll be a changed person. The longer you stare at the sun, the stronger you'll be, the more powers you'll have. Now that's what Ray Hicks was told. I can remember what the old folks used to say around here was you would find a stream that was running away from the sun. Not towards the sun, but away from light. You would find that stream and you would drink out of it, and then you would bathe in it. And when you come out of the stream, you would shake the water off you just like a dog does. And you would say, Lord, I'm shaking your blessings, I'm shaking your love, and I'm shaking everything that means anything to me from you off of me. I am free from you. Those are heavy words to say. You say that, and then when you go home that night, you go to bed. There's some words you say when you go to bed. You continue with your life until the next rainy morning. And the next rainy morning or night, whatever you want to call it, at 3 o'clock, 3 a.m. of that morning / night, you get up and you go back to that stream where you took the bath and where you said all that. You go back to that stream standing in the rain at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you wait. And there'll be a cloaked figure show up, all in black, come right out of the smoke, right out of the Smoky Mountains, because it's foggy around here. So you come out of that, or it comes out of that smoke, you're standing there waiting on it, and it kind of glides up to you, reaches its hand out, and in its hand is a rag, a white rag, a bloody rag. You take the rag and you open it up, and there's a chunk of raw meat inside that rag. You take that raw meat and you say some words. I don't know the words. Some of the words I do know. You say some words and you eat that raw meat. They say when you do that, you die. You pass out, you black out, you die right there. You fall down on the ground. But you come to of the morning in your bed. And from that point on, you're ready. You've got your powers. You're part of the underworld, the devil, the witch. But everything I've ever heard about witchcraft has always been associated with evil. Not saying there's not good witches. I don't know. There possibly is. They called them witch doctors back in the day. My granny said that if you had a rupture on your side, you'd take the piece of cloth closest to your side. You'd call the witch doctor. And this guy was a man, the one that she knew was. And he would take whatever piece of cloth you was wearing closest to that rupture. Say it was your shirt. He would take that and cut a piece of that cloth off. And then he would write a receipt. And then he would take that cloth and he would take that receipt. He'd get a piece of your hair, some fingernails, a piece of toenail, and he'd roll it all up together in that receipt, in that cloth. Then he'd bore a hole in a cherry tree. And then he would take that and he would push that in that hole. And he would say, in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. And he'd put a wooden plug in that hole. And the next day, your hernia would be fixed. Now, I know people that's happened to. I know 3 different people that swear that that's happened to them. So, and that's back. I don't know if anybody can do that nowadays or not. But does that make them evil? Does that make them bad? And I'm asking you all because, you know, I have an opinion, but is it the right one? So, anyway, I thought I would get on here and I would just shoot you guys this video about witches and witchcraft and what goes on up here in the Smokies, because you can walk across areas up here where something's took place and you can feel it. You can feel it in your bones if you've ever been around it. You know something's happened here. Somebody's been hung here. Just real bad. There's a place in Kingsport, Tennessee like that called the Witch's Circle. And in the 60s, the lady was taken there and she was executed. And her baby was nailed up on a tree as a sacrifice to the devil. And they claim that if you go there at the night time, you can hear this woman screaming and you can hear a baby cry, and it is just nothing but evil. Guys, I'm sorry about the dogs. They're not mine. But I know where that place is. It's an eerie feeling. Eerie feeling to go there. It's alright the daytime, but you go there the nighttime, it's way back in the middle of the woods. You go there the nighttime, it just feels like eyeballs are all over you. So anyways, guys, I guess I'll get off from here. We may talk a little bit more about this at a little later time. I'm sure I didn't cover everything I was wanting to cover and talk about everything I was wanting to talk about. There's a lot to be talked about this, and then of course after I read the comments I may do a follow-up video or something other. But like I was telling y'all, I'm not saying my way's the right way or the only way, and what I've heard right is right and what you've heard's wrong, because like I say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. You probably know something I don't know. You know ways and spells that I've never heard of. So if you'd like to share them with us, be interested in seeing it and reading it in the comments. But anyways, guys, I guess I'll get off from here and wait and see what you all have to say about the subject. And next time we walk and talk, maybe it'll be daylight. I'll get to talk to you a little bit. I thought tonight would be a good night since it's cold and wet and rainy, and tomorrow's Halloween. But I did not want to go up in that graveyard and talk about that lady. Not at all. Not at all. Guys, I love y'all. And if I don't have another video for Halloween, happy Halloween, y'all. And we'll see you later.